Number 5 question is, who are you? Is that an important question? Or would you say, who am I? Not who you are, who am I? And if I tell you who I am, what does it matter? It shall be out of curiosity, won't it? It's like reading a menu at the window. You have to go into the restaurant and eat food. But merely standing outside and reading the menu won't satisfy your hunger. So, to tell you who I am is really quite meaningless. First of all, I'm nobody. Right? That's all. It's very simple as that. I'm nobody. But what is important is who you are. What am I? What are you? When they ask who you are, in that question is implied, you are somebody very great, therefore I'm going to imitate you. The way you walk, the way you talk, the way you brush your teeth or whatever it is. I'm going to imitate you, which is part of our pattern, you understand? There is the hero, or the man who is enlightened, or the guru, say, I'm going to copy everything you do, which becomes so absurdly silly, you understand? Childish to imitate somebody. And are we not the result of a lot of imitations? The religions have said, they don't use the word imitate, but give yourself over, surrender yourself, follow me, I am this, I am that, worship, right? All this is what you are. In school you imitate. Please. Acquiring knowledge is a form of imitation. And of course there is the fashion, short dress, long hair, short hair, beard, no beard. Imitate, imitate, imitate. And also we imitate inwardly. So we all know that. But to find out who you are, not who the speaker is far more important. And to find out who you are, you have to inquire. You are the story of mankind, which is really a very, if you really see that, it gives you tremendous vitality, energy, beauty, love. Because it is no longer a small entity struggling in the corner of the earth. You're part of this whole humanity. It has a tremendous responsibility, vitality, beauty, love. But most of us won't see this. But whereas we are most of us concerned with ourselves, with our particular little problem, particular little sorrow, and so on. And to step out of that narrow circle seems almost impossible. Because we are so conditioned, so programmed like the computers, that we cannot learn something new. The computer can, but we can't. See the tragedy of it. The machine that we have created, the computer, can learn much faster, infinitely more than I can, than the brain can. And the brain, which has invented that has become ultra-intelligent machine, right? Whereas our brain is sluggish, slow, dull, because we have conformed, we have obeyed, we have followed. There is the guru, there is the priest, there is the ritual. You follow? And when you do revolt, as the revolutionaries and the terrorists do, it is still very superficial. Changing the pattern of politics, of so-called society. Society is merely the relationship between people. And we are talking of a revolution, not physical, but the psychological revolution in which there is no, at the depth, conformity. We put on trousers because you're in this country, and you put on in India's different clothes. That's not conformity. That's nothing childish. But inwardly, not a feeling of conformity. Conformity exists when there is comparison. For a mind to be totally free from comparison, that is, to learn, to observe the whole history which is embedded in you. I can do this really. Right, sir. Yeah. I suppose I must talk. I'm glad we are having such good weather, and I hope it'll continue the whole week. First of all, if one may remind you, this is not an entertainment. This is not an intellectual feast or intellectual stimulation or some kind of romantic, sentimental nonsense. We are going to deal with a very, very complex problem of living together in this world that has gone almost mad. There is such chaos and misery, the threat of war, and religions have played very little part in all this, in our daily life. And I think we ought to go together, not
that the speaker will talk about various things, but together we ought to go into these matters. Not that you listen and the speaker talks, but together. And so, if we are going to work together, think together, perceive together and act together, one must, it appears, listen very carefully, not only to what is being said, but also to listen to our own reactions to what is being said. Our reactions of approval or disapproval, our sense of restrictions, our resistances, our fears, and all the complexity of our reactions to any form of stimulation. And so the act of listening is very important if we are going together to explore, to think together into the whole problem of our present-day existence. We are very circumscribed, limited. Our brains have been so programmed and conditioned, so limited, that most of us are unaware of this. We are conditioned linguistically, whether we are or not. That's a very serious subject into which we'll go into if we have time. We are conditioned, shaped, molded by the environment, by tradition, by religion, by the solitude of our own illusions, our own imaginations, the solitude of our own aspirations, circumscribed, limited. So our brain, not the speaker is an expert at it, but having listened to great many people talk about the brain, specialists and others, one perceives that through this long process of evolution, our brains are very, very limited. Apparently, only very small part of it act or think or live. The rest is in abeyance. That's what some of the specialists who have studied the quality of the brain and the workings of the brain have said. And also we can see for ourselves, without relying on the experts, that our life is very small. We are so concerned with ourselves, with our success, with our miseries and all the turmoil of one's own limited life, the sorrow, the pain, the anxiety, the various forms of reactions which arise from our prejudices, our bias, our tendencies. All this does condition our brain. And so we never have the awareness of the whole of life, the whole of existence, which is vast, immeasurable, and tremendously potent. And if we could together this morning go easily and happily inquire into our own quality of our life, if you are willing, into the nature of our behavior, into the whole process of our thought. If we could inquire together into all this, and not only inquire, but through the very inquiry, apply. Inquiry by itself has very little meaning. Inquiring into ourselves, into our environment, into the state of the world, mere inquiry, either intellectual or the inquiry of curiosity, of information and so on, has very little effect on our lives. But if we inquire into ourselves, into the way of our thinking, why we think this way, why human beings who have lived on this beautiful earth for so many millennia are still what we are, unhappy, violent, ready to kill each other for some idiotic reasons. If we could go together into all this, and in the process of growing together on this path, on this road, I must stop at 1 hour. We'll continue tomorrow morning, may we? Sorry to stop at this point. Not that it's an enticement for you to come tomorrow.
Can you just say something about when a memory comes, it seems to come from outside, and then you react to, say you're embarrassed, you remember something, I do. You see what I mean? The memory
Yes,
comes,
I understand.
and then there's embarrassment.
The gentleman asked,
Well, that must be an observer.
the gentleman asked, memory is outside, comes from outside.
Well, there must be an observer to react to that memory with embarrassment.
Yes, sir, yes, sir. Comes from outside, you react to that memory, and you strengthen that memory, or you put aside that memory, right? Are you different from memory? You see, that's the whole point. We are the result of this movement from the outer to the inner, right? From the inner to the outer, right? Have you not noticed this? Like the sea going out and coming in. We created this monstrous society, and that society controls us, right? And we try to change that society through law, through governments, through all kinds of strikes and all the rest of it. And then react to that. So it's a constant movement from the outer to the inner, from the inner to the outer, right? It's one movement. It's not separate movement. Water is water. It goes out and comes in. It's salt water. Now, the question arises, which from that whether this movement can stop. Action and reaction. You follow? You hit me and I hit you back. You hate me and I hate you back. I own this particular piece of land and you fight for it. And I defend and I attack. You follow? This has been going on for millions of years. The ebb and flow of reaction. If you will kindly put a question, whether this movement can end. If that wasp stings me, I react naturally. But why should I react if you flatter me or insult me? Right? So, to ask this question, whether this movement of action and reaction can stop, to find an answer to that, one has to go a great deal into it. Is that enough for this morning? May we get up?